Two dirty words for affiliate owners: rate increase. And in this episode, we're going to talk all about how to charge what you're worth without losing members because we understand many of you are afraid, you're not sure what to do, you don't think you should for any other reason, but we want to make sure you're charging your value.
Yeah, we're gonna walk through some big ticket frameworks in there. We've taken, I don't know, probably nearly 1,000 affiliate owners through this process, and there's some do's and don'ts. But more importantly, we want you guys to take what are the big ticket frameworks that I should be considering that you can wrap your brain around going into this. If you're considering it, if you're on the fence, if you have reservations, what are some big ticket frameworks that you can look at and start to kind of noodle on as you go into this? Because if you do it correctly, it goes well every single time. And we have a tremendous track record for that. And not because we're magicians, it's because like there is a framework and there is a process to do this correctly.
Speak for yourself. I'm a magician. I'm going to pull a rabbit.
Out of what?
Remains to be seen.
Yeah.
So let's talk. There's the three P's when it comes to a rate increase. Hit me with them.
So this is called the three P's model. So I've got price, product, and perception. And these are all things I need to take into consideration. And these are big ticket items. So think about, like, generally speaking, I should be able to answer some questions about these three things. But these are the things that you want to work through before you get into all the details, before you start talking timeline and what's the letter going to say, and do I need to do stair step approach if I've got legacy rates and all that kind of stuff. Like, this is how you're going to do effectively a temperature check on, am I in a good spot to do this? Or do I need to start putting some of these things in place?
So let's start. Three P's: price. Let's just big picture overview, and then maybe we'll narrow it down.
Yeah. So the first one is, when I'm looking at price, there's a couple different components to this. One is, have I done this recently? Does the price point reflect fair market value? And does it also reflect the appropriate margins so that I can run my business? Depending on when you started your affiliate or how you started your affiliate, the answer, will vary in its degree. But largely speaking, things generally get more expensive over time. So we want to consider, what is that end going to look like, right? Because you could be in some pretty old pricing structure, at which point it probably, soft talk acknowledged, does not reflect your current cost to operate at this point. And now I'm looking at a scenario where I've got relatively low price paid by my member base, but my cost to fulfill or cost to serve has increased, therefore shrinking the margin. When you shrink the margin, you start playing in the middle. When I'm looking at like market pricing, in the middle is where businesses go to die. And you really need to make a decision. Am I going to go low cost on price point, which is kind of more of a big box model? It's highly unlikely that you're set up to do that. Or am I going to get out of the middle and move towards, higher cost or higher end that has a relative range? We're not talking, $10,000 for memberships, but I'm going to have to move away from that price point in the middle. We'll call it roughly 135 to 150 bucks, is what we'll call, based on how long gyms have been open, what competitors are charging, what it's likely costing you to operate. We're going to have to move away from that. So does my price point reflect appropriately what needs to happen in order for me to operate the business effectively moving forward?
This is often overlooked by affiliate owners, but let's give some examples of things that they may not realize have increased in price while their price hasn't. So, obviously rent. Rent goes up, probably the biggest one, either annually based on your agreement, or you have to re-sign a lease and you sign for a bigger lease, but then you don't change your pricing, and that's massive. But what are some other little things that you've known, where it's like death by a thousand cuts?
It's always death by a thousand cuts. So when you're thinking about your cost to operate, there's typically some, we'll put it in some different buckets, but like my cost to fulfill has probably gone up. If I've been operating, for any duration, I'm either increase in number of classes, at which point the overhead to run all of those classes has gone up. I've gone from not paying my coaches to paying them, at which point my cost has gone up. or I've given my coaches pay increases based on performance or any other number of things inside of that. So my overall cost to fulfill has gone up, right? So that would be one bucket. Bucket two is it's highly likely that my cost of acquiring a client has probably gone up, right? So, maybe I've done a website upgrade. Maybe I've got somebody who is helping me follow up with leads. Maybe I'm doing some sort of paid lead gen strategy. Maybe I've upgraded my software stack with regard to, am I using some sort of CRM to manage all of that? All of those things are factored into your cost to acquire a customer. And if you're not tracking that, like make no mistake, that will absolutely start to eat into your margin. Um, and then just the general ecosystem, like is it have has general cost to operate and do and just operate at large, meaning like, are your supplies costing you more, right? Is it costing you more in taxes, or did taxes go up where you live? Like if taxes go up 1 to 2%, depending on where you live, then you need to factor that in. Are you transitioning people from contractors to employees, right? 11% increase in my overall, roughly, on average, 11% increase in my cost to fulfill. So it's highly likely that at least one or multiple of those are now have now changed versus when you started. Again, number of classes. Are you spending more on equipment for maintenance and replacing things? Like, are you just running through more supplies because you have more people, right? Has the amount of toilet paper and paper towels and cleaning supplies gone up by $300 because you have more people running through the facility? Do you now have a floor scrubber that you didn't have before? So now I have to factor in costs for that and what that is going to entail. Like now I'm paying somebody to clean the facility where I wasn't before.
Lots of little things that can impact that. And again, we often feel like we shouldn't increase the rates for our members, but we all experience a rate increase in many, many things in our lives, whether it's your streaming platform or, anything we do, we feel that, but then affiliate owners are often very, very hesitant to do it. But we've talked about pricing. What about product?
Well, I want to go back to price real quick. So this is something I was thinking about this when I was driving this morning. There is absolutely, if done correctly and you do this well enough, meaning you operate a healthy, sustainable business for a long enough period of time and you grow at a particular rate, there's absolutely a scenario in which you can actually charge less. But you're not going to start there, is my point. So scenario is this. I am growing and I go from 150 members to 300 members, and I'm looking at things and I'm like, I could probably appeal to, call it, 10% more market share if I dropped the overall price. Meaning like I'm now somewhat in control of the supply and demand. Meaning like I've got really good demand for my product. I've got really good inflow in sales. And I'm like, hey, if there is a scenario strategically where I would drop the price in order to appeal to more people in this scenario, and a 10 to 15% increase in my overall member base, you know, assuming I'm going to do a handful of other things, would lend to an increase in overall revenue. But you're not going to get there if you've not gone towards the higher end first. Like you have to create the margin in order to create this scenario in which I do have the ability to bring the price down. Now, I'm not recommending that you do that, but it is a scenario that does exist. Like if you're running a gym with 500 members, you could bring the price down in that scenario. But I could look at I wouldn't just bring the price down. I would have an overall strategy with regard to, okay, I can reduce the price a little bit, but now I'm upselling on premium services more. So my overall average client value goes up, but the cost for my standard membership actually drops a little bit and opens up the fire hose a little bit more for the number of people that I can serve just based on cost to purchase my services.
Yeah, and a big consideration for all of this is when the rates go up, there is a likelihood you'll lose a few people. However, overall, and this is where emotions get in the way. Like I lost 5 members, but you're so far ahead financially with that rate increase.
Yes, you always have the potential to lose people. Like what we've seen across everybody that we helped is that that number is very likely less than 1 to 2%.
Yeah, it's
Right. Like
always
it's going to be
lower than
low. And there's some strategies around that, but we can remind me, we'll circle back to this. So like, how do I start to strategize around that with regard to once we get past these big, like, how do I start to put the people that I am going to need to manage in different buckets? And we'll talk about that a little bit towards the end. But you need to know the numbers. And this is 100% across the board. When people work through this exercise, very few of them run the numbers correctly to understand what it is that they're going to be dealing with. Meaning, I'm going to increase my service costs by or service price point that I'm charging by X number of dollars. What does that equate? And then looking at, okay, how many people can I reasonably expect to potentially say that they're not willing to make that transition with me? And then run a basic calculation on that. If it's going to increase my overall revenue by $1,750, but I'm going to lose two people at $175, a whack, I'm going to be net positive by a whole lot, in that scenario by, $18,000 over the next year. And it's highly likely, anecdotal, but it's highly likely that those people are giving you a headache anyway. And this is an opportunity for me to offload them.
so let's talk about product.
This is one. So when we talk about product, just replace that with service, but just to make it three P's. Um, this is where you need to do your legwork ahead of time, right? Meaning anybody who's ever watched any of our content, we have what we call the 50-50 model, and meaning like it's a pie and 50% of that pie is the service. So if you were running a restaurant, this would be the actual food, right? Meaning like, is the food good? Right. And really thinking about like, does the service feel like it's worth the price? So a couple different things, like you need to audit your coaches. Like if you're not doing development and your coaches are not improving, if you're not running classes on time, if the classes are not full, right? If you're not getting referrals in on a decent drip, then the service is probably not up to par. So we really need to take a look at, which leads into the last one, but like really take a look at your service. Like, am I doing a good enough job to warrant that price point? Right. And if people are not stoked about what you're doing in the affiliate, it's worth considering. Meaning, like, people aren't being like, I love it here. This is amazing. I PR'd, I lost a bunch of weight, I got my first pull up. Insert all of the things that we know happen on a regular basis inside of a CrossFit affiliate. If those things are not happening and people are not, raving fans and coming back tomorrow, then I need to consider that, because you can absolutely do this wrong. If I miss on all of these, then this is going to be a problem when I go to do this. All right, guys, if you're watching this episode and you feel like you're stuck raising your prices, you're uneasy about how that's going to go, you don't know what that roadmap looks like, just set up a call. We will help walk you through this, because if you have the roadmap and you understand the three P's, you understand how to navigate price, you understand how to navigate the product, and you understand how to navigate the perception, you can run a better box. And that's what we would love to help you do. And this is really important. You don't deserve it. Let's put it that way. You don't deserve the right to do a price increase. That has to be earned. Your clients will tell you whether you've earned that right or not. But simply because, you know, cost has gone up doesn't mean that you deserve the right to charge more money. Cost can go up and you can suck.
Mhm.
At which point, like, you don't deserve to raise your prices. And we tell people that all the time, is that like you can't really afford to raise your prices right now. Like, it's not going to end the way that you would like it to, because you made a mistake on price point 5 years ago and your product is not up to par. And so we're gonna have to fix that first before we go back and we're gonna run the numbers ahead of time, but we have to go back before and fix the service first, so that we can get to the last P, which is the perception component of that.
Yeah, I think whenever you post or talk about rate increases publicly, the membership base that watches always like jumps into this, and we fully support that. Like we're not telling affiliate owners, like you said, to just raise your rates without any consideration into the product itself and making sure you're doing a good job. And hey, you made a mistake on opening day and undercharged, you're still going to have a tough time coming up to a normal rate. But yes, this is always with the assumption that your product, your service, like you said, you know, restaurants aren't raising the prices of their food while serving bad food.
Well, they might be, at which point they will go out of business.
Right, and same for an affiliate, right?
Right. So
Yes.
yeah, and I've said this a million times, and I'll say it till I'm blue in the face. Like when I'll speak for best hour only. When we are talking about price, we are never talking about raising that price in the absence of increasing the overall value. Those two things
Mm.
must
Hand in
go
hand.
hand in hand. You have to do that. Like you cannot just arbitrarily raise prices because you run a crappy business. You will run no business if you make that decision. And I've seen it a handful of times. They're like, "We got to raise the prices because I'm not making any money." And I'm like, "Well, there's a reason you're not making any money. We might want to address that first." And
And
then
we'll discuss in the considerations, but we're also very aware of how much to increase. So let's talk about perception, the third P. We got product slash services, perception.
yeah, perception is the one. This is what I always kind of, this is like when we're working through this with affiliates. I'm like, this is where I want to do a vibe check. What is the vibe in the gym? Are people generally happy? Do you have high customer satisfaction, right? Are you getting a good number of referrals? Do people maybe see the writing on the wall and are preemptively asking you about this before it happens? Right? Be like, hey, I see you guys are doing a ton of work around here. Like, are prices going up? And I'm like, yep, they are. I will let you know when that happens. It will not be a secret. You will get plenty of heads up. But yes, they are going up in the future at a later date. So again, like you really need to think about perception. If there's clicks in the gym, not great. If you've got a lot of gripes and moans about the 515 coach, not great. If the people are complaining because the equipment's falling apart, the barbells don't spin, that rower, you know, is a rower from 2009 and the flywheel hasn't been dusted off in 20 years. People are going to be looking at those things because the question they're going to be asking themselves is like, why am I paying more money for something that has been unchanged? Like there's literally nothing better about it than what I was getting 3 years ago. Right. So you really need to do a vibe check. And my recommendation is you get with a couple of trusted clients and staff about this so that you can do a vibe check on things before you do this, because this is the number one thing that you need to feel pretty confident about. The math is the math, right? Right. The math either says that you need to do this or not. You are either providing a good service or not, objectively speaking. Like these classes are either well run, on time, and well coached, or they're not. At which point the perception will be either good or bad. Right. And we've said this many times, like people generally speaking don't leave CrossFit affiliates because they had a bad experience. They generally leave CrossFit affiliates because they become completely blah about the service. Right. It's nothing bad happened. It's just warm milk toast. Right. And they're just like, oh, well, it's the same thing. At which point the perception is not great. So you really need to consider that. And that's a really good litmus test for what is your likelihood for success in this transition when you do this? Because if it's bad perception, no, two things you can't do if you have unhappy customers. Number one, charge more money, and number two, sell them more stuff. Like you never want to do either one of those things if people are unhappy.
Yeah, imagine getting a bad steak and be like, hey, we actually want to charge you more for it. Or do you want to buy another? Like,
Correct. And
no,
this is
this was
why,
bad.
so this is we'll go on a little bit of a chalk bucket tour here. This is when people show up and so again, if you're listening to this is probably something you've at least considered. Hey, I think I'm going to spin up a nutrition, or I'm going to do personal training, or we're going to do personalized programming, or we're going to insert whatever. First of all, I got no beef with any of those. I think all of those are great. If you are doing them because you need more money, then I have to ask the question, like, are my clients happy? That is a requirement. So I've given a couple talks on this. We might be able to link it in this video, but like this is the affiliate owner's BCG matrix, right? Meaning the Ansof's matrix of I am in quadrant 3 on this 2 by 2 matrix. I can either sell my clients more stuff or I can go get new clients. The requirement for selling them new stuff is really good retention and high customer satisfaction. If you do not have those two things, you will not be successful selling more things. It's not going to happen. Right? If they are very happy, it becomes very easy to sell them more things because they trust you and they will very likely want to buy whatever it is that you sell them after that. Because they're like, oh, well, the last thing they gave me worked really well. I'll buy the next thing because I want the additional result, right? Whether I want to shred some body fat or get my first pull up or whatever it's going to be. So understanding why you're doing that and what would prevent you from being successful, a lot of people just skip right over it. They're like, I could make a lot of money over there. I'm like, in a hypothetical scenario, yes, you could. In this scenario, you cannot.
Yeah, and just thinking about the people we've helped, that's one of the questions I asked. Like, what's the vibe at the box? And I've not had anyone answer, the vibe is great, my members are happy, and then have a bad rate increase. It's like as long
Right.
as you have a pulse of what's going on, which you should, you're gonna do just fine when it comes to changing the rate. So we talked about price, product, perception, delivery over discount, DOD.
Ooh, there you go. Department of Defense, otherwise
Mm,
studied.
I like it.
Um, if your delivery system is stronger than your price increase, you win. If not, you lose.
When you
Like
say
just
delivery, delivery of the product or delivery of the message?
both, right? But if I'm going to be talking about there's the actual delivery of service and then there's communication of this. So you absolutely can be doing a good job with regard to fulfillment, communicate this poorly, and
Mhm.
this will be a disaster for you.
So let's do something we did recently, the inverse. Like what would take the communication of a rate increase and make it fail?
What do you
I'll give
think?
you,
Go ahead.
hey, the rate increase is effective tomorrow.
Correct. Yep.
Hey, the rate increase is 10 times what you're currently paying, right?
Yep.
That's not necessarily communication, but hey, suck it. This is the new rate,
Yeah. Too
right?
much, too short, too vague, right? So
Yeah.
those would be the three things that I would have to screw up in order to really get egg on my face. Meaning, like the price increase would be too much. They're like, "Hey, you're getting a little bit out over your skis here, there, big guy." Increasing by $50 is probably not something that you warrant, right? Giving them not enough lead time with regard to how that works. Now, so pro tip on this one, move it outside of one billing cycle. It becomes a non-emotional decision for most people. If they're going to have an emotional decision about it, they're going to have an emotional decision about it. But for the vast majority of people, if they don't have to make a decision about it right now, they'll just punt and they'll be fine. And then communicating very vaguely, right? I don't want to throw rocks at HQ, but if you go back and you look at how they did their price increase, they did it poorly. And I told Austin this on the podcast, right? So this is not a secret. Meaning they gave the information like the price is going up, but they said, and then we're going to do a town hall next week to talk about all the reasons why and how this is going to work. I'm like, those are out of order. Like you gave the bad news and said we're going to wait to tell you all the reasons and all the details about this. Like that is just a bad move altogether. I want to have the requisite information there and available, and then just be available for questions or conversations with regard to that. So one thing is, if you want some objective metrics on the vibe check, it's just like, is your retention stable for the previous 90 days? If you want to go back 6 months, it's probably healthy to go back 6 months. But if you've got good retention over the previous 3 to 6 months, the vibe check is probably decent, right? Meaning like you're churning, you know, 5% or less, preferably closer to 3. If you've got a 3% retention or 3% churn, you're crushing. That's Mount Everest. There's no value in going any lower than that for the most part. So look at some of the objective numbers, right? Are you growing? Are you shrinking? What's your overall, some of that it has to do with what's your lead flow look like, but just how many people are falling out of the bucket. And if people are just leaving in droves, this is a really good indicator that the vibe's probably not great. Um, and we need to figure out how to rectify that first before trying to rectify the financial component of this.
CrossFitters, I've purchased hundreds of thousands of dollars of equipment in my life. I've been doing CrossFit since 2007. I've owned 4 affiliates. I currently own an affiliate in my basement. And let me tell you this, Rep Fitness is by far my favorite equipment. First of all, it's amazing quality. The price is right. And what I love is I talk to somebody that I know, that knows me, and that understands my needs. Now, cool thing is, as a family member of Best Hour, you can save big over at Rep Fitness. Go to repfitness.com/best hour and save on your next equipment purchase.
All right, guys, if you like this content, please subscribe to the podcast. But understand, we work with affiliates. If you are interested in building your business, understanding strategy, building a better community, and building better coaches and careers for them, hit the link somewhere around this video, and we'd love to have a call with you.
Continuing to talk about delivery over discount.
It's just when we think you want to over deliver, right? We talk about that endlessly, which is like over deliver, over deliver, over deliver, over deliver, and then over deliver some more when you think you're done over delivering, right? Like I was posting, I posted something on my Instagram. I don't know when this is going to air, but like about surprise and delight,
Mm-hmm.
right? So now the precursor to surprise and delight is be really systematic about engaging with your clients on things that are relevant and relative to them. So meaning go with the things that are happening systematically in the affiliate every single day and figure out how to deliver some sort of reward system to them, meaning like, did they get committed club? Are you giving out stickers? Like the shit that people will do for stickers is mind boggling, right? Are you tracking PRs? Like, are people getting the one fundamental thing that they showed up to you for, which is PRs, right? Are they getting stronger? Are their times getting faster? Like, are they getting increased work capacity across broad time and modal domains? Like, is that happening? Okay. Um, and then looking at other things like lifetime attendance metrics. How many different ways can you incentivize that? Right? Is it t-shirts? Is it more stickers? Um, if you've got all those on rails, meaning like t-shirts are being handed out every day, stickers are flying off the shelf like it's nobody's business, then you can move into the kind of the surprise and delight component of this. Like I just got an email today about one of our members. He told me he had like him and his mom both had some health issues over the past 3 weeks. I'm like, we're gonna follow up with him and we're gonna send him something.
And we do the same like with affiliate you, like, you know,
100%.
specific example, Casey and Nick move locations. I sent them a bonsai tree because we had a discussion a year ago,
Right.
right? It's like, but those little things, like, and then you saw the message response. It's like, those are the things you want to do with those surprise and delights. It's
Yep.
your members love that. And also, as you were saying that, it's like, you know who doesn't care about a rate increase? Someone getting results and showing up consistently. It's like this is the place I go all the time. So you have to like I always look at it, it's like there's a dollar amount where it's like, is it even worth the bandwidth in my head to figure out a different place to train? Whether it's a Globo Gym, another affiliate in my garage, it's like for $10, do I even think about it?
I don't
And then
even want them to consider it.
yeah.
We had a member that came back recently. She came back less than 2 weeks ago. I was training in the afternoon class. She walked in. I was like, "Yo, what's up?" She's like, "Oh, got busy. You know, I had to change where I was training." And she's like, "It's just so good to be here. It's just like you just cannot beat the coaching and the programming here. Like it's just so good. Like it's so thoughtful and it's so good." I'm like, I'm trying to create that gap so that like that the price point between I don't even know what she was paying over there, but let's just say it was $40. But I have no idea. I don't even know where she was. Didn't matter to me. I want her to be like, she came in and her daughter are both training now. It's just like not just her, but so now it's two
Right.
people, and
I'm back
she's there because
and
she's
I'm
like it's so good that I had to come back.
well, especially you think about it from that perspective. If her daughter is now of the age where she's going to train, you're like, well, I want them to go to the place where I'm not afraid she's going to get hurt.
Correct.
Right.
Right.
So it's like worth it to me to pay an extra $40 just to feel confident. So we've talked about the 3 P's, delivery over discount. Let's get into these considerations.
Okay. So the one thing that everybody freaks out about when they go through this process, like when we're working through an affiliate owner, they start getting the sweaty palms, and I'm like, who is it?
Yeah. Who's the one member you're
Who's the
generalizing
person
about?
that you're
Right.
freaked out about, right? And I'm a big fan of like quantifying things and making things binary so that this abstract, scary idea becomes something that's very tangible that I can either look out on paper or I can quantify via some sort of math equation. And there's an interesting, because I love me a good two by two matrix, but like this influence and interest matrix, right? So any two by two, it's got low to high. And on one axis, I've got interest, meaning like they have some sort of interest in how this goes. And on the bottom, on the x axis, they have influence, right? So an example of somebody who has interest in, um, in you doing a price increase might be your landlord, right? Meaning they're like, hey, they don't really necessarily have any influence in there, but your landlord wants a healthy tenant. So they're, you know, if you told them, you know, they'd be like, hey, well, that's great. That means you're going to be around here and not have to worry about you paying rent, you know. Your coaching staff to some degree, right? Interest, maybe have some influence in there. Depends, right? And then you have influence, and these are people that are going to be your kind of influential people inside of the gym, your OGs, your people that have, you know, a lot of gravitas, if you will, right? They have the following inside of the gym. They're the leader of their little pack or the 9 a.m. or something like that. And then there's probably some people that fall in the bucket of high interest and high influence bucket, which would be the top right bracket. That's the group that you need to consider first. So the people with low interest and low influence basically just need to be told what's happening, right? People with interest just basically need to know the details. People with high influence but low interest, kind of the same thing. Or excuse high influence and low interest, right? I'm going to need to somewhat get buy-in, but those people aren't really the ones I'm concerned with because they're probably on their way out the door anyway when I do this. The people that fall in that high interest and high influence, you could probably name them by name. It's a coach that's been giving you a shitty time about stuff that's happening in the gym, and it's probably a member who's been a little bit mouthy lately about what's going on in the gym. Those are the people that, if I can at all costs, I want to get buy-in from. If I can handle those people, everybody else is just going to get in line, right? Because people with a low interest and low interest don't care. They're just like, yeah, this is what how business works, right? The people that have low influence aren't really going to bother you anyway, right? It's not like they have an ability to impact what it is that's going on at the gym, right? And the people that have that just have high interest, all they really need to do is be informed. When and how is this happening? And is it somehow going to impact me in any way, negatively or positively? That's it. So when you do that, there ends up being like a handful of names in that top right quadrant. At which point now I can start crafting the message to them preemptively. And what I can do for them is one-on-one conversations, right? Hey, this is what we're doing. Here's why. Here's the reasoning. Here's all of the plans for doing this. What you can do for the people that are low interest, high influence is basically get some feedback from them. You're not necessarily asking them for their approval, but you're just going to run it by them. Be like, hey, this is some stuff that we kind of got on the burner here for the next 4 months. I just wanted to get your general thoughts on it. Right. And they give you some feedback. Now, I'm not necessarily asking them for buy in, but I do want to get a vibe check on that group of people because they are of high influence. And if I find that they have something negative or I get a bad vibe on them, they're probably going to move into that top right quadrant for me, which is now going to be high influence, high interest. And I'm going to now start to look at them for buy-in. How do I start to get that buy-in? And I just think putting people in that framework combined with doing the math makes this whole thing not scary. And the whole purpose around this is doing it confidently. When you can do it confidently, it goes well, assuming you don't make a handful of blunders in the scenario.
The blunders being what we talked about, too
Right.
soon, too much, too vague.
Yeah.
Any when you talk about that kind of matrix there, any different forms of communication? Would you have a sit down with the high interest, high influence? Is it just being
Yeah.
aware of them when you interact with them on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, the distinct if it's high interest, low influence, that can be just notification of some sort, right? Prior to this whole thing happening, right? They're just somebody that might need to be informed for some reason or other. Your accountant, be like, hey, we're gonna have an increase in revenue. Here's what that's gonna look like. Let me know if I'm gonna need to factor in any sort of tax implications for this. Same thing for the landlord potentially. If they are high influence, high interest, I'm going to want to be looking at probably a sit down. If they're just high influence, low interest, that's probably a drive-by conversation. Nothing super heavy, just a quick chat on the fly, on the move to get a vibe check on them. But anybody that falls in that top right quadrant, that is very likely and very probable to be something that you're going to want to sit down and have a thorough discussion with them
So
about.
are you, hey, after class, can we chat for a minute? Is it grab coffee? And
Yeah,
then,
yeah, you could go with the whole like what Kanan was doing with all of his clients. Be like, hey, I send them a calendar appointment. Be like, hey, I'd love to run some things by you. You're a long-standing coach slash member, like whatever. You've been here, you've seen a lot of the transitions, and I've got some things planned out, and I'd really like to see what your thoughts are on it.
well,
And
and I'll tell you, bonus would be you're not doing this only in the instance when you're changing rates. This is, you bring up Canaan, but that's happening year round.
well, he's
So
doing that every month. I'm just using that as an
yeah.
example.
But if you're
But
doing
again,
that
right,
monthly like he is, when you go, it's kind of like a self-licking ice cream cone,
right,
right? By the time you get to the rate increase, it's like you already have a great pulse.
right.
High influence, high interest people are already on board. Hey, real quick, if you're watching this right now and what Fern and I are talking about is resonating with you and you're thinking maybe I should do a rate increase or I'm going to do one and I want it to be successful, click the link, apply for a 14-day trial with us. Let the best in the business, let those that have helped thousands of others do this successfully help you out.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where like, like do the little things, right? So there's a young guy here who basically just quit his job and he's starting his own business. And he was like, I don't know why. Like the coaches told me they're like, hey, he wants to talk to you, but he's like scared to talk to you. I was like, why? Just like, and he like didn't know. They're like, hey, listen, if you don't get him on the count, if you don't get on his calendar, you're not gonna talk to him. So I grabbed him. I was like, "Hey, the guy said you wanted to talk." And he was like, "Yeah, I'm starting my own business. I'd like to get some inputs." And I was like, "Tomorrow, 11:30, be in my office." Showed up, walked through it. I was like, "Bro, I'm excited. Like this is dope. Like I think you're going to smash. Here's what I think here's a couple of considerations I think you should take into account." And then today he was like, "Hey, who do I talk to about paying in full since you guys because we're running a promotion right now." And I'm like, "I don't know that for a fact that was what pushed him over the edge on that." But I'd know it wasn't 0% factor, right? And that's not even why I did it. It was just a secondary effect of
That's like a little surprise and delight, right?
right.
Like,
I took a 30 minutes and I'm like, I mean, I love talking business. And I'm like, tell me what you want to do, dude. Like, let's hash it out. I went, full beautiful mind on the whiteboard over here and help him out. I want him to succeed.
and now you own 90% of that business, correct?
Yeah, we struck a deal. Yeah, I get royalties in perpetuity.
Shark Tank. Dude. All right, so we've talked about the three P's: delivery over discount, considerations. What should people be thinking prior to launching all of this?
Run the scenarios, right? So get ahead on the objections, right? And if you've done all of this other stuff, you know who they are, you know probably what the objections are going to be. Do the rehearsal prior to, meaning like strategize your negotiation in air quotes prior to it happening. Um, it's like the number of conversations that like Jess was just joking, like she was doing a job interview and she's like, the guy had asked her, he's like, so what have you been doing since you retired? And she's like, and I was like, that's probably a question you should have been prepared to answer,
Yeah, what you know that it's even it's the
It's
same
gonna
in
come up.
sales, right? Like we know when you're selling a membership, I got to talk to my significant other. All these
Right.
other things are going to come up. Be prepared for that.
Be prepared. It's just rehearsal, right? Like the top three objections, like, hey, I've been here a long time, I don't think this is worth it. Like whatever. Like, but the objections that you're gonna get. Like, I can't afford it, right? This doesn't fit in my budget anymore. I like all these things. Like, if you know those objections, you can come up with, I don't even say rebuttals, but you can come up with solutions for them. Whether that is
Overcomes,
yeah,
right?
you can kick the can down the road, you can stair step it, you can offset it, you can change it to, from 4 week to monthly, but change the price. There's a lot of things that you can do here, but with good confidence, you know all of the ways that this can go wrong, and this should be an open book test. This is what I tell coaches in the level two, which is like, hey, we already know all the things that can go wrong in the squat.
Right.
We should just be prepared for when those things go wrong. If I see this, then I do this. If that doesn't work, then I do this. Right? It's just like, hey, if there's 7 faults in the air squat and I have 3 types of cues for each one of those, Easy Math says I should walk onto the floor with 21 solutions for this problem that potentially could rear its head. So then it's just how fast or how confidently can I react to that becomes a question. Not like, oh my God, I didn't think you were gonna ask me that question. Um, that's the big thing. If you've done all your homework and and you've taken into account, the three P's, if you've done an analysis on, who are my people that are high influence, high interest, and I've got a good solid plan in here, you're gonna know whether or not this is a good decision. And with that, play the long game. If it's in your best interest to wait and you can wait, then just wait or extend the time out a little bit. Where this typically goes wrong is there's an element of urgency to it when there should not be.
I think a mistake a lot of affiliate owners make, broadly speaking, is they think about their own finances when doing a rate increase, and perhaps you're not your ideal client. You know,
Yeah.
and also this theory or thought of like CrossFit's for everyone. It's like it is, but not everyone can afford to go right to an affiliate. Like that doesn't mean they can't do CrossFit for free somewhere, but removing that being a martyr thought, because I've been there, I'm sure you've been there. I know that comes up with clients. Just remembering that the value you're giving these people is definitely worth it to them, right? And I think you lose sight of it. And whether it's 150 or $200 a month, that might be a lot to you, but to many of your members, it's either not a lot or it's worth it. Like I said earlier, they don't want to go elsewhere. This is, I think we sometimes as the owners lose sight of this is our second or third home, but because it's our job now, we have a slightly different vantage point on it.
Well, I think some of this just overlooks the the concept of like successful businesses, and you could define success in any number of ways, but let's go with the black and white meaning, like successful meaning it's assumed that we're doing high impact stuff inside of a CrossFit affiliate. I've not met a CrossFit, maybe one or two that doesn't care about the people that walk into their gym, right? Most of them, you know, care so much that it starts to cloud their judgment on with regard to logic and how they should operate their business. Then if I'm doing things that are high impact, then people are willing to pay that price point. And if they're willing to pay that price point, then I can run a healthy business and I can therefore reinvest that back into the business to make it even better. And that should be a consideration when you go through this process. Year over year, when people if somebody left your affiliate and they came back in 12 months, they should come back to a better affiliate. They should not come back to the same affiliate. Something should have changed. Like there should have been equipment upgrades. The lobby should be nicer. The coaches should all be wearing uniforms now. The classes should be tighter. Everybody should have upgraded their credentials. You should have better retention practices. And then the next year, you do it again. Then the next year, you're like, hey, we're going to run better events, right? That are really, really well promoted and well executed, so that now people have buy-in from a social component. And if you're doing that, then it becomes a logical conclusion that if somebody's like, well, if I pay more, then I get more value. And as long as those two things are moving in tandem, people are fine, right? The perception is that I'm going to get the value that I anticipate for the amount that I pay.
Hmm.
When that perception gets off, right? The whole perceived value thing, right? When that starts to get skewed is when you run into a lot of problems. And this is when CrossFitters become meh about what it is that you do. And we all know, like, even at 150 bucks, meh is too much money,
Yeah.
right? Like, I'm paying too much money to get meh, right? Where I'm like, nah, I don't really care. Like, I'm just kind of like, whatever. I could take it or leave it, right? But if it's something they like look forward to, if it is something they would consider like the best hour of their day, then they're
There's
like, I'm willing to
definitely
pay for that, right? I get connections, I get better health, I get better long-term outcomes from all of this. Then I'm like, yeah, that's an investment. I'm either going to pay to be healthy or I'm going to pay to be unhappy and be sick. That's a decision they're going to make. My job is to make it easy for them to make the decision.
yeah. Affiliate owners don't lose sight of what you're providing and continue to strive to be better. This will go well. like you said earlier, it's not a rush. If you're listening to this and you're like, I need to do it, be smart about it and perhaps book a call with us. We take a limited number of people every month for a free 14-day trial, and we can help you work through this and make sure you're fully prepared to implement this successfully. And a rate increase can be what you need to help facilitate and cover the cost of a year with us over at Affiliate University.
And just to leave everybody with one last thing, which is just everything that we've talked about is a roadmap. And fundamentally, we know this because we've seen it a thousand times, which is failure to plan will inevitably lead to failure. So let's not show up to game day with no plan because we already know what the outcome is going to be.
Fail to plan, plan to fail. If you're interested, click the link. It's around this video, wherever you're watching it. Free 14-day trial. Apply. See if we're a good fit. If you're a good fit, we'd love to help you out with something like this. And let's keep doing those things at the affiliates.
Thanks for checking out this episode of the Best Hour of Their Day podcast. We appreciate you listening and choosing to have us help you in your passion for coaching and affiliate ownership. You can find more episodes just like this on all podcast platforms. If you're interested in learning more, you can reach out to us on any social media platforms, or you can visit www.besthouroftheirday.com to book a call. If you found this episode helpful for you, please share it so that we can help other coaches and affiliate owners to help build a bigger and stronger CrossFit community. Thanks for listening.